What's up, you beautiful people? Welcome back to the podcast. Today, I want to share with you what I think is maybe the most powerful, potent mindset that you can adopt, not just as an entrepreneur and a founder, but as an individual, as an identity that you can craft your life around. I think for me, this mindset specifically over the last 10 months has been incredibly valuable to keep at the forefront of my mind as I went through tremendous upheaval in one of my businesses where, I talked about it a little bit, but there was betrayal, there were lawsuits, there was bankruptcies, all sorts of crazy shit. And it's because of this mindset that I want to share with you today. That I was able to navigate that period of time in a way that, one, I came out the other side of it stronger, better for it. Two, not in a mental asylum. And three, just really excited for what comes next. And it starts with what I call the from zero mindset. The from zero mindset is, it's a recurring trait that I see in the most successful people. It's this willingness to start every day, to start every activity, to start every project from zero. And to not feel as though they have these sunk costs, because they've put so much time and energy into this aspect, this relationship, into this business, this project. I have to see it through. I can't pivot because I can't stand the thought of having wasted all that time and energy. I can't stand the thought of the external judgments that my friends, my family, my brother, that they're going to have when they look at this and they say, I knew it. I told you this the whole time. You should never have done that thing. The reason we stay on these paths in life for longer than we should is because inertia is a hell of a thing, and we get our identity tied up into it. And so there's three aspects of the from zero mindset that I want you to think about. I want you to journal on this week and think about how you can implement it into your own life. The first is to start every day from zero. The most successful people know that every single day is its own microcosm of the universe. Your entire life is nothing more than a sequence of nows. And you cannot spend your life looking back at the past. You have to be in the present, willing to do the work necessary that in the next moment is going to put you where you want to be. And so every day you have to wake up and start the day from zero. You have to pour into yourself. You have to pour into your mind. You have to pour into your body. You have to, pour into your business, pour into your relationships. Because if you are not willing to start every day and pour into those things as though they were starting from empty, then it's just a matter of time until whatever you had previously poured into that cup just evaporates or it gets poured out. So you might have put in just tons of time and energy into your relationships last year, but if you haven't been every single day starting from zero and making little deposits into those, then it's just a matter of time until the cup that you poured into is completely dry. And then you look up and you're like, oh, now I literally have nothing to show for this, right? Now you have to start treating it as though you really are at zero because you are at zero. The way to avoid having to find yourself in crisis mode, filling this cup out of an emergency, whether that's your finances, your fitness, or whatever, is to start every day as though it's already empty and make the deposits necessary to keep it full. So that's the first. The second is you must approach the idea of skill acquisition every single day as though you were starting from zero. And this is important because skills are the only investment that you can make that pay compounding dividends regardless of market cycle. So any investment that you make into acquiring, the skill of communication, the skill of coding, the skill of finance, whatever, that's a skill that can never be taxed. It can't be taken away from you. And regardless of external circumstances and resources that you may or may not lose, you always have those skills that you can always deploy again in the future. But what ends up happening, and this is it's a really easy, sneaky trap for us to fall into, is the trap of success. As you acquire a certain base level of competence in a skill, you use that skill to acquire resources, and you start to think that's good enough. That skill is good enough. I'm a pretty good communicator, but I still need to be pouring in every single day into my skills, learning how do I articulate better? How do I pause better? How do I use my hands better? Right? If I don't do that every single day, then my skills are going to stagnate. Now, the only way that you can approach the process of systematically improving your skills is to always have the beginner mindset, that there is something to learn, that there is something worth improving at. Now, this is really difficult because you probably have a lot of areas, if you're listening to this, a lot of areas of your life where you are above average competency. For me, you might be watching this and you might put me a bit on a pedestal, and you might be like, oh, he's got businesses, he's been successful, he's written all these best-selling books, right? And you might have this tendency to put me on a pedestal. I'm not saying that you do, but I this is just a natural thing that happens in these kind of relationships, right? You see the content, and I'm trying to position myself as somebody who knows what they're talking about. So like, you probably put me at a place on that mountain. Now, it's really easy to start buying into my own bullshit, right? To get high on my own supply and start thinking, oh, I do have it all figured out. I have mastered these things. And now I can't afford to come back down the mountain and try to acquire new skills or make myself appear like a beginner, because I've tied my identity with the wrong thing. I've tied my identity to the status that's bestowed upon me for having arisen to a certain level on the mountain, right? Now, if I tie my identity to that and I'm not willing to start from zero to come back down the mountain to go learn how to climb that mountain, then I only ever carve out this identity around the skills that I've previously acquired at that level. And I noticed this in a completely tangential way in rock climbing. It took me many years to unpack this, but I was a professional rock climber for about a decade. And towards the end of my career, I was getting older. I was like in my early 30s. I wasn't able to compete at the same level that I was when I was younger. Obviously, as you get old, you start to slow down a bit. You're not as strong as you once were. And the young bucks, they're just really fantastic. Well, my ego couldn't handle the idea of going and continuing to be a beginner in that sport, because I had tied my identity for so long as being successful in that. So eventually what ended up happening is I had to abandon that activity because my ego couldn't stand the idea of not being the master anymore. And I went off and I pursued other activities where it was okay for me to be a beginner, where there were no expectations. Most importantly, I didn't have expectations of myself. Now, seeing what I know now, I wish I had stayed with rock climbing. I wish I hadn't abandoned it in that way or for those reasons. But ultimately, at the end of the day, if you want to be successful in life and in business, you have to have this willingness to approach your skills, your abilities, your relationships every day as though you're starting from zero. And you're willing, because you're not tying your identity to the things that you've accomplished in the past, right? When people put you on a pedestal and say, oh, you're so successful, they're talking about the things that you've been successful at in the past. What you want to tie your identity to is that you are the person that shows up every day excited to learn, excited to pour in, excited to grow. If that's what you tie your identity to, then you're going to succeed. So that's the second thing, is approach the idea of skill acquisition every day from zero. Finally is approach life as though you were always willing to start from zero. And this has been the most profound application of this lesson for me over the last 10 months, obviously. But I think the big fear a lot of us have is, what if I lose it all? What if it all goes away? This business I'm building, it's ephemeral. What if it all goes away? The market crashes tomorrow and I lose it. My family leaves. Like, what? We're always afraid of losing the things that we have, because we think for whatever reason it's gonna be the final situation. That will be the end. And the reality is that if you are the person who has the identity that no matter what happens externally, you're going to show up every day from zero and do the work, then regardless of what happens externally, if you lose all your money, you lose your business, and you have to go back to the beginning and start again, it's not daunting, because you are the person capable of doing that. And now what that does is really interesting. It's paradoxical, because when you operate from a place of abundance and not fear, but hope and optimism for what the future holds, you're far less likely to actually fail at the thing that you're doing. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you fear failure, failure becomes inevitable. But when you are looking forward to the opportunity of starting again from zero, then nothing can stop you. And that makes you dangerous. So that is the mindset that I want you to think about, to adopt, to journal about this week, is the idea of starting from zero and how empowering that can be. And that's going to do it for me, guys. I'll see you in the next episode.